You're once again in your backyard, trying to juggle stuff for the pool, pickleball, and of course some thread. If only you had a bag that could fit it all. Well, now you do. The Eileen Tote by Amber from Sew Majestic. This supersized tote has a large opening, multiple pockets, and comfortable shoulder straps. You can easily toss everything in and head off for your summer adventures by the water.
Hey everyone, it's Rhea. Thank you for joining me for this month's Marathon Society. I will have already put in the intro so you saw what we're making. We are making the, I can put my head over, it's so big, the Eileen Pool Tote by Amber from Sew Majestic. Oh, look at this. It's huge, but it's fun and it's a really quick make. I had a lot of fun making this. You can see it is very unstructured. I've made this with waterproof canvas, which is what when I watched her original tutorial, that's what she used as well. But we do have some vinyl at the bottom here to both give it a pop of color and give it some strength down here at the bottom. The exterior, as you can see, has on one side, we've got 2 mesh pockets and a clear pocket here. Normally on the back, or on the other side, I guess it depends on what you consider the front, you would have on this side a zipper pocket and a slip pocket. I wanted to make this without any hardware at all, so I eliminated that. And I decided to have the same set of pockets that we have on the other side, on this side as well. So for me, there really is no front or back. It's whatever you want here. So we've got those there. Then on the inside, more waterproof canvas. We do have an overlay. Now I did just use a template I have for that. The pattern comes with a template, but I just used one that I have. But it's not a zipper pocket. It's a slip pocket. I didn't want to use any hardware, so I just made it so it's a nice deep slip pocket. And then I added, this is not part of the pattern, but I added some more mesh pockets right here, as you can see. So I think there's a lot of space in here. If I were to do this again, I would probably put in some elastic on the sides for a bottle holder, like a water bottle holder of some kind. I think that would be really handy there. I don't know that I'd make any other changes though. I think it's a really nice basic bag, well thought out bag for when you're going to the beach or to the pool. Want to use materials obviously that can get wet and are water, at a minimum, water resistant, if not waterproof. So nice strap here. Obviously because I didn't do the hardware, no D-rings, no shoulder strap, or shoulder or crossbody strap, but that's okay. My materials, the waterproof canvas is all FWD fabrics. The mesh is by Annie, and then the webbing, oh, I've got a little thread there, the webbing and the vinyl, both the clear and the more traditional vinyl, that's all from the Emporium. So thanks for joining me today while I make this. I hope you've checked out the other videos as well for this month's Marathon Society event. And let's get sewing. Thanks. Okay, let's take a look at our materials for the Eileen Pool Tote. I am going to be making this so that I'm not going to use any hardware. I really want to see how easily I can put this together and how quickly I can do it if you eliminate the hardware. So my exterior and my lining will be waterproof canvas. I mean, it is meant to be near the water, so I thought that would be fun. And then I had to use this vinyl. This is from the Emporium. It's one of the newer prints. I mean, cats on pool floats, and it's rainbow and pink. I mean, yeah. So you can see I've already cut this out per the pattern. I also, and I should note, I did not cut out any of the pattern pieces. I decided to just use my ruler because the dimensions are provided in the pattern. And so I did that with everything. I, again, was trying to see how easy could I make this without having to print, without hardware, all of that. So I've got those prepped, and I do already have on the back a line that we're going to need to add. I'll do it this way so you can see. A line we need to add when we're starting to assemble the exterior together. So I've already marked those. So that's going to be the bottom of our exterior. This is going to be our main exterior, and you'll notice we do still have this bottom part here, and Amber indicates in her video for this, her tutorial and in the pattern, that part of that is to help with stability. I mean, we're not going to interface anything, and so this is just going to add some added strength because, you might want to load this up as you go. So we're going to leave this here, and actually when we put this together, let me grab this. It is going to come somewhat like this. So that's how that's going to look. So I've already also marked on here per the pattern where we need to put these marks so that we can add these pieces. Now, I have not put this together the way it is indicated in the pattern. In the pattern, you'll see she has you put one of these mesh pockets on each side of your clear vinyl, and I decided to go with this cute cat print clear vinyl, also from the Emporium. She has you do that, but you also have to cinch the bottom of these, and you sort of sew and cinch these. On my industrial, I can't do that. I mean, there's no way I could sew just this. It's just not going to work. And so I'm going to sew each one of these down individually, and that's why I just sort of put these together here with my fold over elastic so I can go and do a top stitch. I'll then cut them apart and lay them down on here. So they will be this in the middle, one on each side, and then we will have our webbing go over the top to conceal the edges. So that is what we've got for our exterior. So I have 2 sets of those and 2 pieces of webbing. So this is everything for the exterior. Let me move that aside. Then for our lining, whoops, no, I do want that. I'm going to put a tag in there. Oh, hi. I think you're amazing. Thought that'd be good. And then I'm changing up the interior a little bit. I've decided I like the idea of the mesh pocket, and so I am going to create one. Now you can see this is bigger than the pattern piece, but that's okay. I'm going to, first I do need to top stitch the top here so that this will be the top of the pocket. I will then stitch this down and I'll sew up the middle, but when I sew the sides up, I'm going to bring these closer to the edge. So it's sort of like a cargo pocket, not quite, but sort of. And so I'm going to do that. That's why I have tape here already, because when, let me get this little bit off here, when I'm ready to, what about that? Get this set, I'll just tape that down, sew it down, and I'll be ready to go. So that's one of my lining pieces. The other is right here. Now the pattern does have a pattern piece for an overlay. And I didn't want to print anything. I was trying to see, wow, how fast could you do this if you wanted a really quick pool tote? And so I used my zipper template that I have from Warmino. This is the large one, as you can see. And so I just cut that out. I used that to cut it out. I'm not going to make this into a zipper pocket. So I haven't done it before, but I know you can do slip pockets sort of with a zipper pocket sort of feature to it. It'll look like you would be making a zipper pocket, but you're just going to do a slip. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to see how well that works. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't done it before. So those are the pieces. I mean, as you can see, there really is not much if you're not going to be doing any hardware. You can cut everything out with your ruler if you'd like. You can do an overlay like this. You can use the pattern, and in fact, in her tutorial, she shows you what you do if you want to use one of your cutting machines. If you have one, a Cricut, or what is it, Brother? I have a Cricut, but I don't use it. So you can do that, but I just wanted to see what can I do with what I have right here at home. Happen to have on hand, and see how fast we can do it. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is anything that's going to require top stitching. So I just want to kind of get that out of the way. So I've got these pieces here. Let me make sure I've got my hump jumper down. I'm just going to top stitch these on 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fold over elastic. So what I did for these, so you can see, I use fold over elastic, but it has a natural sort of a fold mark in the middle. I don't have any issues sewing over double-sided tape, so I did put a piece of 1/4 inch double-sided tape on both sides to really help it hold down. And so that's part of it. If you have an issue sewing over tape, then obviously just use clips, something along those lines, or maybe put it more towards the middle so it could fold right there and help hold into place. Whatever you need to do to sort of help keep it there. So I'm going to just go across 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fold over elastic. Those are all done. I will admit sometimes my top stitching gets a little wonky on the mesh, just because of how it it moves around, but I think overall it looks fun. Plus, it's supposed to be kind of, woo. So we've got those done. We'll be working with those in a minute. The last thing I want to sew down before we start to assemble things will be my overlay. So we're going to do that now. I'm just going to do 1/8 of an inch from the outer edge of the overlay. I will pull my threads through. Okay, it's almost done too. That looks, there it goes. You can see I'm using fairy floss. The colors are brighter than fairy floss, but I think they blend in nicely. They're the right color family, so I wanted to stick with that. What I'm going to do, oh, one thing I wanted to mention too. You notice I used a woven label for my tag, for my shop name instead of like a cork one or a leather or faux leather, which I normally do. Since this is meant for water or being near water, I didn't want to put a label that could potentially lose some of its color, so I didn't use that. Also, when I was marking things, when I marked the bottom of the exterior, when I marked the bottom of the back of the vinyl, even when I marked on the straps, I didn't use a pen. I used chalk, or I used a pencil in the case on the back of the vinyl, and you'll see that again. Simply because, as I said, I didn't want to run the risk of water potentially getting somewhere, causing that to run and causing it to perhaps stain something. So I didn't want to use anything that would do that. So now that we've got this done, we need to go start prepping things so we can sew the pockets on the exterior. I'm going to, at the same time as I do that, so I'm going to be putting down all of these that I prepped. I'm going to put them on the exterior pieces so you can see how we're going to do that. I'm also going to cut this out and get this prepped as well. So we will be right back and start putting this all together. Okay, I simply have a pile of things here. I'm going to start making my way through it. So here will be the external panel, one of them, front, and I've put on the pieces that will create the pockets. I just noticed I have a long thread there. So what you would normally do per the pattern is if you would sew with the mesh, you'd sort of cinch the bottom on your machine and then you would sew all of this together as one piece. I can't sew through just the mesh on my industrial. It won't like it. So what I did was I just sort of cinched it myself. I've got double-sided tape down there so you can see I'm sort of pressing it in place. And so what I'm going to do first is sew all the way down so I can sew down the clear and the mesh. I'm then going to come through and I'm going to align these. You can see this isn't attached in any way, but I will sort of align those so I can sew down those. I'll have them overlap just a little bit. There's plenty there, just so I can get those sewn down. And then I'm going to sew down the edges as well. So you'll sort of see it's going to have a 3D pocket effect. So I'm going to do that with all of these. All of these, they're two pieces, front and back. Well, when we're done, then we'll put the straps over here to cover those seams. We won't see that, and we won't see the bottom either when we put the vinyl on. So we're going to get started. Right now, I'm now at a construction stitch length. So I'm like at a 4.5, and bring this down even lower. And I should have noted, these are right up against the line that we had to draw on there. So I'm just going to be sewing right on that. There we go. As you can see, I've got that all sewn down. I realized there's a lock here, so excuse me for trying to do it. So you can see this one didn't line up perfectly there. I might try to pull this up. I might lift this and just get that to line up because I'd like those to line up the way these do. I also didn't care about going off the edge of this because we're going to cover that with the webbing. So I'm going to fix this one, and then I'm going to do the other one, and we'll come back and see the next steps of this. I have webbing attached. It's just taped down at the moment. So you can see it runs down towards the bottom. It's not going to be in our seam allowance, but it runs down so that it's going to be another way to provide strength. So again, we're going to, this is so hard to show, it's so big here. We're going to put the vinyl over the bottom. And so it's going to cover this right down here. So we're going to have this waterproof canvas, vinyl, and the webbing. That's all going to be providing a lot of strength should you really want to load this up. So I'm now going to stitch these down, just 1/8 of an inch from the edge. There are indicators in the pattern how high up you should go, and oh, mine are already gone. I used an air erasing marker. So I will need to mark those again. I'll be right back. As I said, 1/8 of an inch down to each side to those marks across. You can do a box if you want. I might do rivets, so we'll see. Okay, so we've got those sewn down on the top all the way down. I'm debating whether I maybe want to do another, like a second row. That way, instead of doing a box, I will admit for boxes, I never get my boxes very boxy looking. They're always a little off. And so I might just do another row right on the inside of that. And that way it'll be really secure and it'll be strong here at the top. So I think I'm going to do that just for fun. Okay, so I got all 4 sides of my strap sewn down. So I've got 2 straps, 4 sides with the double row that I liked. Now what we're going to do is sew down that bottom part of the vinyl. And so there was the line that I drew there we go, at the bottom of my main exterior piece. And I aligned the top of the vinyl to that. So as you can see, the vinyl's now right side down. The top of that is there so that it's going up because we're going to sew on this line that I also drew on the vinyl. We're going to fold it down and top stitch it. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to over here. I realized as I was getting this together, this is a really great bobbin dump project. So because until you do the final top stitching, you can do a bobbin dump for everything. So just something to keep in mind with that too. So I've got that done. Now, so what's supposed to happen is that your lining, or not the lining, the back part of the waterproof canvas part of your main exterior piece and the vinyl should align. And I'm going to take it over the cutting table and see. It looks like it might be just a little off. And so if I have to trim any off of the waterproof canvas, I'm going to trim the exact same amount off of my lining pieces because I want them to be the same size. It looks like it's close, but I just wonder if maybe my seam allowance is off, or maybe I put this a little too high. Not sure, but it's not a big deal. Plus I have to trim it up, but you can see, look how cute that is. So that's our exterior. Once I trim this all up, what we're going to do is sew down the side, or sorry, the bottom here, just so it'll be easier to put this together. And then we're going to sort of sew this together the way we normally would. We're going to sew down the sides. Actually, I'm going to sew down the bottom first because we're going to butterfly these open. And sorry, I'm thinking about that. That's a lot to butterfly open. I might trim some of that down regardless. But we're going to sew down the bottoms, butterfly it open, and stitch down both sides of that. So I'll be right back. I'm going to trim this up. We'll take a look and see how it is. So I didn't end up trimming anything because it's all going to be within the seam allowance, so I'm fine with that. So I'm just going to now stitch across the bottom per the seam allowance in the pattern. And I'll do that so that it'll be easy to butterfly that open. Okay, so that is now stitched. I'm just trying to think, butterflying that open, that's... I don't know that I'm going to. It's really thick down here with the vinyl and the waterproof canvas. I don't think it's going to butterfly open nicely to stitch. So what I'm going to do is do an extra row of stitches there for strength, and then I'm going to trim it down a little bit. It's a little too thick, but that's okay. So now what I want to do is sort of line these up. I'm going to line up the side seams here. This is probably the most important part, to make sure you get that aligned for a clean look. You can always, if you're concerned about it shifting, put a little double-sided tape there. That'll help it. I tend to sew that first so that I kind of hope that I catch it. The other thing we want to ensure lines up will be our pockets here. Now I'll see if I did a good job here. Yeah, they're pretty close. Let's see. So we want to ensure that these two line up here. Okay, got everything clipped, so I'm going to sew per the seam allowance down the sides, and then we'll box. There you can see. Then we'll box our bottoms. You may have noticed I did a double row on this. I mean, this is waterproof canvas. It's not vinyl, so probably didn't need it, but I did it just to be safe. There's a lot going on in here, so I wanted to ensure that everything was going to be really strong. So now I'm going to box the bottoms. Look how big that is. This is such a big base, but I guess that's what you'd want for something like this. If you're carrying towels. I am going to nest my seams. So I'll show you that. Let me just do the sides. So, instead of butterflying them, just because they're so thick, I'm going to fold one in one direction, one in the other. Whatever I do on the bottom, I have to ensure it's folding in the same direction on the other side. But I just think that's going to be much easier. This is an area where if you needed to or wanted to, you could staple it before you do it, and then just take your staple out. Probably would really help to keep that center seam in place. Let's just clip all around. Where's the other side? It's so big, I couldn't find the other side. Okay. Do these per the seam allowance in the pattern, and making sure everything is staying nested. Yeah, it is. Can see I'm working on an extremely small table. This thing is huge, but it can still be done. So if you're someone who's thinking about getting an industrial and having it be a cylinder arm and having that be your only sewing machine, know that you can do it. I mean, I'm putting this huge, massive thing together on this little bit. So it can be done, just takes some manipulating. And because it's a cylinder arm, I've been debating whether I want to do this as a drop-in, and that's what I was thinking, but this is just too much, so I will not be doing it as a drop-in. I will sew it together, but I will still do all of that on the cylinder arm. And so normally we would leave this turned out like this, but I want to see how it looks. This will be easy enough to turn back and forth. So let's just take a look and see. So I'm a smidgen off right here. You can see, where'd it go? Sorry. There it is. This side is slightly higher than this side. It's minor. I'm not going to worry about that, obviously. It looks good on this side, so hopefully you can see that. These are lined up nicely. So let's just sort of, so this is, there we go. So that's essentially what it is. You can't see the whole thing. Ooh, sorry. I normally try to bring it lower so you can see it, but it's too big. So we will show it to you later. Here's the top. You get an idea. I'm going to put this aside. Just looking at it. It's pretty cute. Yeah, that's really cute. Okay, let's finish the interior. So the first thing we're going to do is this pocket where I've got an idea of how I want to do this. I don't really know what I'm doing, but okay. So I'm going to first just sew down the bottom here. This is where this is the top that I top stitched. I've taped down the other piece or end of it here. I'm going to probably do 2 rows to really ensure it's strong. There. I've also drawn a line down the middle, which will be hard to see, but trust me, it's there. And I'm going to sew straight up the middle. I'm debating whether I might actually divide this into 4. We'll first start with that, and we'll see before I sort of finish things up. I will also, at the moment, sorry, let's see, get that straight. I'm used to working with so much waterproof canvas. When I do the middle, I'm going to keep it nice and straight and taut like this. When I'm ready to sew the sides together, I will kind of bunch it in so it will have a little baggier effect, a 3D effect. But for right now, we're just going to just do the bottom. Now let's see. My waterproof canvas is fraying. Don't think that waterproof canvas can't fray. I mean, it's still fabric, so depending on how you cut it, it could fray. Just careful with that. So I think if I sew these down, those are pretty big. I'm trying to think of the type of things that you might want to put in a beach bag, and you want to keep it carefully sort of separate. I might sew down one and leave one large. So let's do that. We're going to, let's see, how do I want to do that? So I'm just kind of winging it. Sewed another one there. Just thought it might be helpful to have that. I don't know that I'm going to, I think I'll leave one big, as I said. We'll have 2 on that side, so it just gives you a little variety. And so I'm going to now sew down the edges, and I want it to be a little 3-dimensional, so I'm kind of, again, winging it. I'm just sort of deciding how much do I want to bring in. I'm going to go right there, I think. Whoops. It looks pretty even across the top. So you can see here's one side. I just sort of eyeballed it. And then if you come across, Yeah, sorry. Here's the other side. So I'm going to go trim off the sides, and we're going to finish up the slip pocket with the overlay. Okay, the overlay. So I'm doing this. I brought a zipper out to sort of show how I was planning this. So we have here our overlay. I cut the piece out. I cut out the interior of that. I've already put a lining piece on there. What I then did, I thought about this. I'm going to create this with the method where you sew down the bottom and you have your material up. So you'll sew down the bottom. Then you're going to put everything down and you're going to sew up the side, across the top, and then down this side, and you tie your threads with all of those. So it looks like one continuous stitch. So we're going to do that, but without a zipper. And so I thought about how we would do this if there was a zipper. So we've got our zipper here, and most zippers are about 1¼ inches wide. So I thought about that. You know, if it's right here normally, right in the middle, our box that we cut out is 1/2 inch wide. If this is 1¼ inches wide and we are centering it in there, that means the tape, we've got 3 total then of 3/4 of an inch that is not within that box. And that means 3/8 of an inch on each side. So move this out of the way. 3/8 of an 3/8 of an inch. There we go. Below here and 3/8 of an inch above here. That's sort of where the normal overhang, you could say, would be for the zipper tape. And when we do that, you know, think about it, when we would normally be putting that in, we would have our lining right up at the edge. So that tells me that if I'm not using a zipper this time, I need to have my lining piece sort of set and lined up 3/8 of an inch below and 3/8 of an inch above the top of it. So what I did to help me is I drew a line 3/8 of an inch below this and 3/8 of an inch above. And so for the bottom piece, I've already put it down with some double-sided tape. Oop, it moved a little. Let me get that back in line. It actually turned out where I cut, my cut line was pretty on target with where I needed to put this when I cut the material out. There. So I've got this here. Again, so big. There we go. So I've lined that up where it needs to be. I'm now going to come through. Let me change my stitch length to 5. And see if I can do it from this side. There we go. Make sure it didn't move. Okay, we're good. And so just like we would do it if there was a zipper, I'm going to try to get this all under here. I'm going to start 1/8 of an inch below the line, the box, and really 1/8 of an inch from the side of it as well. So I need to sort of figure out approximately where that would be. Let me think right about here. Okay, and so I'm going to just sew across right now. And keep my threads on. So let's pull these back and tie them off. Okay. So now what we want to do is fold this down. I'm trying to crease it as much as I can. There we go. Okay. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see. You might be able to see a little right here. This is where I drew my line. It really happens to be where I cut it. What I did, and that's chance, when I do an overlay, I put a piece of 1/4 inch double-sided tape right down the middle, and I cut up to it. So you can see, I mean, I had to draw a little bit more of the line here, but that's pretty on target. And so what we're going to do now, and again, I really want to crease this down. We're going to take our top one. So again, I've got double-sided tape on the right side of this. This was all right side. So, so I am aligning the top of my piece of pocket lining with that line I drew. And you can see now everything is face down. So now you have everything down. I'm going to go find, I have to get my thread, that last hole that I did. And I want to go into that last hole. End in that hole, or as close to it as I can. It's a little off, but that's okay. Okay, let's tie those off. Now let's take a look at it. Well, I have a little more peeking up right here than I'd like, but you can see it will just be a pocket. That's all I wanted. I wanted just a really basic pocket, something that would keep things a little more secure, but not worry about having to zip it up. Again, I wanted to try to do this with no hardware. So what I'm going to do now is fold up the sides. One's a little longer, that's fine. I mean, that would make sense, but let's fold these up with my clips. You know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to go back to my cutting table. I'll be right back. I want to be able to have a nice crease here. I want to use my seam roller, and I might put a little double-sided tape down on here to just help hold that back and make that nice and even. And it's so thick using the regular waterproof canvas that I can't do it with my fingers. So I will be right back, and we will stitch up the sides. Totally admit, this is me being lazy. I didn't trim anything off. I just folded things over to make it even. It's fine. So we're now going to stitch down the sides. I'm going to fold back here so I can see the side. I'm going to stitch down those to close the sides of the pocket. So you can see here we've got our pocket. I have left it open because more clips. We're going to turn, I'm going to leave part of the side open when I sew this together because I think it'll still be easier to pull most of the bag through that, although this is pretty big. We'll see what I feel like doing. But we can sew this together now. Just a normal tote at this point. So when we sew this together, at the top, we're going to start with the same seam allowance we used on the exterior, and then we're going to increase it as we get down a little bit. Okay, now I have to decide, do I want to pull the whole thing through the pocket, or do I want to leave a side open? I think I'm going to leave the side open, so let me I'll just remember it. So we're going to start, as I said, with the seam allowance in the pattern. Sorry, the external seam allowance, that is what's in the pattern. And then as we go down a little bit, we're going to increase it so that it fits snugly inside the exterior. As I get closer to the top, I'm going to go back to the exterior seam allowance. I'm going to trim my sides a little once I find my scissors. I just drop the bobbin. Now when I trim them, I'm not going to trim at the very top, and I'm not going to trim at the very bottom. And that's because I like to keep the full seam allowance for when I have to box my bottoms and when I have to join it with the exterior. Just makes it a lot easier. Same even for here. I'm going to, on the base, cut away most of it, but at the very ends, whoops, where I need to box it, I'm going to leave that the full width. And I'm not going to cut right here where we've left it open. Didn't need to do that little bit that I did there. Okay. Let's box our bottoms. Let's get that sewn. Turn this one right side out. Did I take all the clips off? Nope. I feel like there's one there. And I need to turn this back inside out. So we're going to put our straps in. And there is no right or front or back to my exterior because I didn't put a tag on it. There isn't a clear front or back because I did the same pocket on the front or back. It has a zipper pocket normally on one side of the exterior, but I chose not to do that. So now I'm going to just get this all aligned. I did not mark my centers on my exterior, but it'll be fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try... No, I'm going to nest. No, I'll butterfly. I'm debating. Do I butterfly? I'm going to nest. I'm going to nest my side seams. Now on the other side. Now I'm just going to start clipping around. Okay, so now I'm going to take off the cylinder arm and we are going to sew this together. Okay, I told you it was a bobbin dump. I just finished the pink bobbin that I was using there. You may have, well, I'm sure you saw, I took it off. I had to reposition it. It was getting stuck. The yarn here was getting stuck on the pocket right there, so I just had to reposition it on there. But I think I got everything. It looks pretty good. So let's turn it. Okay, we're all clipped. New bobbin is in, well, remaining bobbin is in, but back to the bobbin I need. So we're going to start top stitching. I like to start in the seam. got it set to 5. Let's get going. Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, looks good on the inside. It did. Some of the blue might be popping up a little, and I think I got a little bit of a wobble. Well, if I can't find it now, then it doesn't matter. So let's just close up the inside. And it's done. It's done. You're not going to be able to see it all here, so let's get the camera at a different angle and you'll be able to see it. Hands are tired. It's done. It's huge, as you can see. It really is, but it's cute. It's super cute. I like how this turned out. You can see here. So we've got the pockets here on the outside, a couple mesh and clear. I decided to do the same on both sides because, as I mentioned, I wanted this to be a hardware-free bag. So rather than having it was a zipper pocket here and then there was a slip pocket behind it, I just have done the one. And so I think it's really cute. Inside, oh, I guess the other thing I did differently here is I also did 2 rows of stitches, or 2 rows, yeah, boxes rows, rather than a box at the top. So I feel that's pretty secure there too. Inside, instead of doing a zipper pocket, I did a slip pocket, but with an overlay, because I thought that is still pretty nice. I was going to put my tag in the side, but it was just getting challenging, so I put it into the bottom of the pocket. I would also recommend, I haven't done a pocket with regular waterproof canvas in a long time. It was hard getting those corners in, so if I were to do that again, I would use a thinner material for that. I like having used regular waterproof canvas for this. I think it would have been just really thin otherwise, thinner than I would have liked. As it is, it's not structured at all, but I like having that little bit extra on the inside. So I've got my slip pocket, as I mentioned here. Let's see. It's so big. There we go. There's a slip pocket, which we did with the kind of the sew at the bottom, then keep your tails long, sew around the top, tie everything off. And then I decided to put some more mesh pockets on this side. So we've got one big one and then 2 smaller ones. And I like that. I think that's good because I'm just thinking about what you need when you're going to the pool. It's good to have some more compartments in there, I think. Probably even put more in it. If I were to do this again, maybe I would put on the side something for a water bottle. Maybe on both sides even. I don't know what else I might put in there. But yeah, and then the straps are cute. I didn't do, obviously, the crossbody because I wasn't doing any hardware. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's pretty cute. And so, I'm just kind of, there we go. So thanks for joining me today while I made this. Go check out all of the other videos this month. So I've got a little fuzz. All the other videos this month that are part of the Marathon Society. Thank you, Amber, again for letting us use your pattern. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.